Hey guys, what is going on? So we are filming the Monday market breakdown. As you can see, this is my watch list, my wildcards, and my extra pairs. These are more so on extra watch. I wanted to kind of change it up. Usually 6 on 6, got confident with using less and built up some more knowledge, and now kind of have the more confidence to add a little bit more on top and see how I perform. So it's basically just one thing that I'm going to be testing out this week. I think it's always good to kind of, not change, but tweak your trading as well, just to see what kind of works for you, because we're all different at the end of the day and we process information differently. So the DXY, essentially still looking at this sort of expanding wedge, kind of seeing it more so kind of making its way back up, still looking for the flag continuation in there, which I think wasn't the easiest. Would be pretty much 15-minute, and there wasn't really much of an entry. Perhaps maybe you could say this was a bit more of the squeeze, but all in all, I don't think that wouldn't be a major entry I would look at. So I think right now, if you are looking at Euro, USD, or DXY, I think this is probably sort of area you want to be looking for an entry, because this could be a monster of a push to get to here. It does give off that sort of very impulsive push away. This was all related to employment rates in the USA, this drop off. So we can see that after we've had this sort of aggressive sort of push down, we had the push up then push down, now we're getting that push back up. So price is just kind of getting back to where it was. Essentially patience. When we get to these areas, that's when we're going to really evaluate for position sizing. The JP225, no surprise, we're just getting a bit of an extension, catching people on the wrong side. People are now really convinced that we are going up. We just need to be patient and let this play out. I think everything in my forecast pretty much stays the same. I'm going to be waiting for price to really push back into this area here. So when price does push back in down here, that's when I'll be looking to get involved. Anywhere up here, I think, is just more so FOMO, because you might just get something larger. But I think if it's really breaking back into here, we push all the way back into here, then we create something. We're going to get a lot of different continuations, but we're going to really push to the downside in line with all the other yen pairs. And it doesn't look like the yen pairs are completely ready yet. If we do come up on the daily, we can see that there is possibilities of drawing trend lines for various different angles, but personally I wouldn't waste my time doing that. I would just keep it very simple and understand that we have this, we have an extension, and we're just sitting in the extension. What we might find at the end of today is, if we have a look at our daily candle, if we can actually turn around and really pull back all the way down here, we're going to see some significant pullbacks in the market. So let's have a little look at that and evaluate that carefully. I think Monday is a very, very key day for the yen pairs. I think this is a day to perhaps stay out of them, but tomorrow it looks like it could really shape up. We don't know if it could be more of an evening trade as well, but stay sharp with the yen pairs for sure. The next one I'm looking at is GBP New Zealand. Now we can actually see on the daily how beautiful this is. I think there's so much to appreciate with just this candlestick structure over here. I'm currently just waiting for an entry on this. It wasn't the most clearest. I was looking for this sort of expanding up here, for pricing up here, push back, no create flag. We actually create something smaller in here, and then we sold off. So sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't, and it is what it is. But I think at the moment I am going to keep it very simple, and I'm just going to wait. So I think the best thing you can do in these situations is just clear off your chart, understand that, okay, we are pushing down quite aggressively. It's really nice. We did create some level of a hook point over here as well, which is a good reference point to keep in mind. And over here also, this one is very interesting, but it's so up in structure, I wouldn't worry about it now. And I would say kind of from the 1 hour now, and just look for some sort of good entry criteria. I would look for something to kind of just build, create something like this, and then we drop off. And if we can get something like this will be beautiful. This will be a good trade to get into the short. So essentially that's what I'm going to be waiting for. The really nice thing is that we've actually cleared this now. We've cleared this sort of price action zone here, and the good thing about it is we're actually clearing this low here now as we speak. So any continuation down here is going to become even more higher probability at this point, and I think getting positioned in this is good, because the reason for that is it eliminates, let me just quickly change this. It eliminates the forecast of, this sort of larger flag to the upside. And we always knew that was a possibility, that we could just create a flag at the high and then continue going. But more than likely now we are going to sell off, so we do know where to position ourselves in the market. Just have to stay a bit sharp. We are not getting very corrective movement. We're getting impulse, correction, impulse, a little bit of a larger correction, but it seems like we're continuing with an impulse, and we might continue in that nature. So just going to stay sharp with that. I'm going to keep it very simple and just wait for that sort of flag there. If we get it, all good. If not, it is what it is, and we'll just have to wait for another entry, and that's all it is, really, just waiting. So that's GBP New Zealand. I think that's definitely one I'm going to stay very, very sharp with this week. CAD, Yen, as we saw with the Yen pairs, they're just not fully ready yet, but I think, as I mentioned, keeping it very, very simple. Draw the red trend line. Once the trend line has been drawn, essentially just wait for that trend line to be broken. So let the price do whatever it has to do up here. When it comes back, it's going to tap into this. We're going to get a push down. So let it push down back into this, create a flag, and then we'll get in, and then that's where we'll take it to the 9% one. Same with GJ. GJ still actually hasn't completed its larger high time frame structure at the point. So for that reason, it kind of gives us a little bit more of an indication that, that push up, that push down, it's a possibility, or we might push up, correct, and then correctively get there in this scenario. So there's two separate situations that I'll be looking at. Also, this impulse down, I think, will be a little bit larger. Being very honest with you, I think the flag will be somewhere down here, but I wouldn't cross that off. But we have to also understand that this is very corrective price action, so we can be in quite a risky area as well, because it can pull back from inflection point, and create something a little bit larger. So understand that we haven't really got the full ending structure at this point now. It is very corrective, and we're getting a corrective approach, and we know that with a corrective approach we usually look for a push down and a flag, so a break off this trend and going into the new one. So bear that in mind. We are looking for a break off trend for us to look for the short, but we need to wait for the JP225 to start signaling as well that, okay, here's a message from the market for the shorts. Aussie Swiss. So Aussie Swiss is definitely in its continuation stage to the downside. We're looking at this as a price pattern to just continue with this formation. We have a little hook point over there, which is very interesting. I think this is a very high probability trade as well. We're getting a very impulsive approach, but within the structure, which is very nice. We have a middle section here, impulse correction continuation, 1, 2, 3 into the high, and we're approaching it over 1, 2, 3. So over here, push up, push down on the flag, only because of the nature of the RO3, which is the rule of 3, the approach. We're getting an impulsive approach here, so I'll look for a push up, push back down on the flag, and I think that'll be solid. So I think that one as well can definitely be put on watch, but I don't think it'll be ready today. I think it's more sort of soft watch one, but it's definitely nevertheless worth having it on board. I think the most important thing we can do as a trader is actually just set an alert over here as well, so it doesn't go missed, because then you would have to take that to a mistrade and then probably evaluate it and realize, why did you miss it? Well, I could have set an alert to prevent that. So that's one thing. Obviously over here, this is one you're just going to have to monitor hourly. I am looking for something which is going to consolidate for 4 to 6 hours, so hopefully it's going to form by this evening. If it doesn't, it is what it is. So I'm just going to have to wait for that, like check it this afternoon. If it's not started its formation, then I'll have to check it by the evening. Aussie Yen. Aussie Yen has broken its first inflection point high. We do have this internal structure, 1, 2, 3. We don't have to fully commit to the high, but I think because of how the other yen pairs are going, we are going to get that level of commitment. So I am looking at it in two ways. We either get an aggressive push down, and then we push down out of this, and we're somewhere down here trading, and then we create a flag below this low. I'll just dot this one in. Yeah. Otherwise, just correctively squeeze at this point now and push up, push back down, flag, and we're in. And that's how simple I'll keep it. Hopefully in line with the other yen pairs, we're all going to gear up. I think Aussie yen is definitely one of the favorited ones amongst them at this point. We have a lot of structure within structure, which is really nice, and I think that's the reason why. New Zealand CAD, we had the lovely little ending structure over here, and it played out very, very well. I think in terms of a risk reward, on the hourly, more than enough there. And yeah, you'd be running roughly around about 2.5%, which I think is a phenomenal trade for maybe about a day and a half at this point. And then you'd be running into that 3.5%. I am waiting here to tap into the low and just see how it reacts. If we do get a very aggressive reaction, that's going to be very positive. So if we get a strong push up, followed by continuation, strong push up, followed by continuation to the upside, this is where you want to be positioning yourself really and truly, because then you'll be very well priced in for this larger position. It's more than likely though, and I've seen this time and time again, that we will see it tap into the low and possibly arc back down and then go. So understand that that is also a possibility. If you do position yourself correctly and you do something like this, and then price does do something like that, just understand that that's probability, and we always knew that that was a possibility, that price was going to come here before it went up. And don't beat yourself up about it. You know, you might take a loss, but then eventually, if you be patient enough, you'll price yourself correctly and you'll get into the position again, maybe a week later. Euro GBP, so I was looking at a forecast very similar to New Zealand CAD, but we are trading so close to this low that it's perhaps a little bit better at this point that we didn't commit. There was enough in terms of a risk reward to get in there if we did have the retrace. So for example, let's just say that we had a decent retrace over here and we were able to just get in with 12 pip to the low. There was enough room to manage it for sure. So I'll just put the right tool on. Yeah, let's just say that you were able to get in with 15 pips. Even with 15, you would have had a 3% there, 3.5. So there was more than enough room to manage it to the low, and we could have had an aggressive push low before we came back up. However, given how things are now, this forecast definitely can be scrapped, and just wait for price to really just give us a message. I think more than likely I will wait for something in that light. Obviously on the lower time frames, and we see something like this, and that's why I'll be positioning myself. So that's basically it for EG. And then I think UJ is very self-explanatory, very much like RBN has, just waiting for structure to develop here. We may impulse and push up here and just get an aggressive push up. Even so, as soon as we break this, I'll be looking for a push down on the flag. This section over here has now become somewhat irrelevant, so I'll remove it. And yeah, essentially that's all I'm looking for. Push up, push down the flag. So no need to really drill lower, but for simplicity, I will be looking for, if it is a structured approach, that middle section, but more than likely looking at how the DXY is. I think the USD yen will be one to definitely surprise us. If we get aggressive movement to the high, we might be trading up here before we push back down, or if we do get that structured approach, we'll see the DXY pushing up, but we will see USD yen just kind of correcting and then fulfilling the structure. Euro CAD, I am waiting for some structure on this one as well. It's very nice that we broke this low. We've had the aggressive push away, but it seems like we're just continuing and we're not giving any sort of opportunity there. This small tighter flag is forming, but I don't know if I want to be taking a small tight flag down here. I think I would be looking for something more structurally, just because of the risk that we're all the way down here now. This was a very nice trade in here. However, I think given how price is now, we're all the way down here. So I would wait for something a little bit, not as large as this, but some structure in there before I even get involved for the short. So that's one I'll definitely be patient for, to wait to just see how it develops. EA is definitely developing really well. We do still have to always remember we have that near miss, but nevertheless we are pushing down quite aggressively with a left shoulder hedge, right shoulder, and this is the first sort of larger flag we're having before the push down. We can see that we've consolidated for a number of days, and across the board during this consolidation period, it's been 2 days, 17 hours. We could just push up to here, and then when we do get to this area, we might see ourselves aggressively selling. It may not be the easiest trade to catch though at this point, so I would keep it very, very simple, and I would look at this as the price point high, this as the possible inflection area, and just wait, really see how price develops. If we do get some sort of corrective price, we might get a push down, a flag, and then go, which might be interesting for a position sizing, or more than likely we might just tap in, retrace, create a small flag here, and then start trading lower. So it's one that I think needs to really be evaluated for a trade, because it does come with a bit of risk. We don't really know the structure at this point, and also we're kind of just squeezing in this area. So right now it's kind of more so looking like this, and that just becomes a little bit of liquidity, but it's just one of those ones that I think becomes a little bit messy at this point, and you need to kind of learn to just read between the lines. So that's one I think might go missed, but it's a very good positioning for what it could become. GBP USD, so we've obviously got tiny near miss, but I think it's irrelevant with this large impulse away. I am looking for a flag now continuation. We did have this smaller flag, wasn't fond of it. I am looking for something a little bit larger. If we can get that would be phenomenal for the push lower, and that could actually give us enough momentum to break this low and maybe even start continuing into this trend to the downside. So I am going to be patient and wait for some structure here and see how that develops, and then we'll evaluate it later. Aussie US dollar, two ways. We either break back into this area, start getting continuation to the downside, or we create something larger and we start pushing to the upside. Very simple, but we are in a downtrend on a high time frame, and there's more than enough for this to sell off aggressively. So we just have to be patient with that as well. EJ, very similar to the other yen pairs, but this one I think may just trickle and get higher and higher. I think if you want to strategically place yourself, you want to be looking at these areas. So if we can see this sort of bottom, if price can come back down there, push back up, create a flag, then you can position yourself to continue with this potential long trade. Bear in mind that this can sell off as well. There is the possibility that other yen pairs do, but more than likely I think this is going to complete this 1, 2, 3 into this structure, and then we're going to get the position sizing to the low. And then last but not least, we have USD ZAR, which I do currently have a position on. USD ZAR was one that I think in terms of where it's positioned is phenomenal. So if we look at it on the weekly, we can see that we are coming into this structure, which we don't need to complete. It is a very far way away. However, we have come into this inflection point over here, which is the highest point it was at, and we sat in it for a few weeks. And now if we look at it on the weekly, we can see that we did actually get a nice little rejection candle, which doesn't entirely mean that we're going to sell off right now, but it is positioned in a very good area. And then if I go to the daily, we can then see that price is exhausting as we approach that high. And then I go to the 4 hour and I can see that there's some structure in there. We can see that obviously over here, not the cleanest, but we can see that we were correctively squeezing into this high, where this could now be coming a middle section to go to the high. So definitely have to be in your management game. When it reaches around about this area, I'm looking at it to go to the 90% rule, but we're definitely going to have to just see about that. Remember that obviously if this commits, it's going to be a very, very, very profitable trade as well. And then internally, as we kind of approach this top area, we had this sort of mini 1, 2, 3 inside here as well. So we had this 1, 2, 3 internal structure, and then we broke below it, created a small flag over here, and then we're now continuing creating another flag. So in terms of sequence, I think we're very, very well positioned, and I think this could actually turn out to be a very good position. So looking at it now on the daily, if we start breaking back below here and create another flag, it's going to be well confirmed that we could actually drop off quite aggressively, but then the next price target is pretty much down here. So in terms of a risk reward, could be looking at a 4-to-1 at this point to this low. So that's one of the main positives to actually entering this position. I think waiting for this trend line to be broken is also very nice, but I think with the aggressive movement we're seeing at the moment, we'll have to wait and see. So that's basically it for my watch list and wildcards and soft watch. So if you have any questions, please drop a comment below. If you did enjoy the video, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.